You have probably already sensed it, but in case you haven't, you should know that we are experiencing some big spiritual thingamajig right now. It's some strange and powerful energy blast hitting all of us, which might be emanating from the Humacavula star cluster. We really don't know, to tell you the truth. This powerful energy blast, combined with whatever is in retrograde at the moment, is causing some serious disturbances in all our lives by disrupting our thoughts, emotions, decisions, and pretty much anything else that just feels out of whack. Your chakras, third eyes, pendulums, crystals, and tarot decks have no doubt been informing you by now that something completely and utterly out of your control is happening to our planet, and for this cause we have the effect of each and every one of our lives being completely off kilter. It really doesn't matter when you're reading this for it to be the case. You see, there was a time before we could all be aware of these sorts of things at the same time, during the dark ages of spiritual information and dissemination. I speak of the time before the internet, of course. Yes, during those times we were all forced to experience this existence as individuals with individual thoughts and individual feelings. It was like knuckle dragging to trust in our own intuition and make decisions for our highest good based solely on our first-hand experience and knowledge. Bleak were the days when our spiritual schools of thought were not like Baskin Robbins, and the ultimate goal in life was to simply be happy and find that happiness nowhere else but within. As if that wasn't bad enough, the happiness within had to be found without the input of anyone else. Can you imagine how grievous such a thing was way back when? Now, though, with the advent of the internet and a plethora of social media thingies, we have created our very own metamunity. Metamunity noun. Definition of metamunity. 1. A community of metaphysical or spiritual practitioners or acolytes. 2. A community of those of the belief that organized religion is antiquated due to its usage of certain scriptures, prayers, relics, and rituals. 3. A community of people who practice their spiritual life through certain scriptures, prayers, relics, and rituals. 4. A community of metaphysical or spiritual practitioners and acolytes who tend to believe that telepathy, telekinesis, accessing collective consciousness, and other supernatural abilities are accessible by the third eye, chakra system, etc., etc. 5. A community of metaphysical or spiritual practitioners and acolytes who share and disseminate their information rigorously via smartphones, Wi-Fi, apps, and social media. 6. A community of metaphysical or spiritual practitioners and acolytes that profess one's own intuition or gut feeling is the best standard for navigating decisions in life. 7. A community of metaphysical spiritual practitioners and acolytes that utilize a myriad of oracular devices, tarot cards, pendulums, spirit guides, psychic readings from mediums, etc., to navigate the decisions they make in life. Metamunity verb. 1. The act of being immune from regular bowel movements after having consumed massive quantities of Metamucil. Thanks to the coagulation of this metamunity, events such as the current big spiritual thingamajig no longer go unnoticed by each of us as individuals, and we are appropriately informed of when to collectively freak out with hashtags telling us some of the ways in which we should be collectively freaking out. For example, in our current situation, and as best as we can track down, everything was fine, everything was roses, everything was smooth sailing until Barbara Jenkins, aka High Priestess Gertrude of Thermopylae in the metamunity, of Tulsa, Oklahoma, woke up in the wee hours to go to the loo. As she stumbled down the hallway, half asleep, she stubbed her toe on a clunky plastic toy left in the dark by Joey Goldstein, a 6-year-old boy she babysits, to make extra income outside of her online pixie dust tarot readings and life coaching. After stubbing her toe, going to the loo, and realizing that there was only one ply left on the roll, the rest of the day was downhill for Barbara Jenkins. Once she had taken the time to seriously meditate on the events of her morning, about the amount of time it took her to completely down her first organic latte of the day, it occurred to her that there was some big spiritual thingamajig that must be happening, and that had to explain why her morning and day had up until that point been absolute bollocks. With her predetermined explanation in mind, she took to her favorite methods of divination, such as tracking the planets with a handy-dandy smartphone app, and confirming her suspicions by reading the bottom of a Snapple bottle top. Sure enough, her predetermined explanation for what was happening was confirmed as she read real fact number 903, which states the first TV toy commercial aired in 1946 for Mr. Potato Head. With such profound confirmation from the Uberverse that her predetermined explanation was correct, she proceeded to inform all her followers on social media, her pixie dust tarot reading and life coaching clients, and everyone on her live stream that she had been informed by her spirit guides, Lord Metatron and Bob Hoskins, that indeed we are going through some big spiritual thingamajig. Thankfully for all of us, it spread like wildfire, and collectively we can agree that none of our lives are supposed to be stable, content, or filled with bliss at the moment or for the foreseeable future, as we do not have a definite end date for this energy blast from the Humacavula star cluster. At best, What we can do is continue to hit refresh on whichever internet platform happens to be serving as our magic 8 ball for the day and wait for someone in the meta-immunity to tell us it's all over. In case you are unsure if this big spiritual thingamajig is having an effect on you, here are some of the symptoms or signs to be on the lookout for. 1. Your emotions will fluctuate throughout the day. 2. You will have negative thoughts. 3. You will have positive thoughts. 4. Things during your day will go wrong. 5. Things during your day will go right. 6. Your body will ache in certain places. 7. Your body will feel perfectly fine in certain places. 8. You will not be able to think clearly. 9. You will be able to think clearly. 10. You will encounter difficult people. 11. You will encounter cooperative people. 12. You will encounter people. 13. Your divination tools will confirm the big spiritual thingamajig. 14. Your divination tools will disavow the big spiritual thingamajig. In this instance, don't trust them. It's a trick due to the big spiritual thingamajig. While this is by no means an exhaustive list of what to be mindful of, it is an excellent blueprint for you to determine for yourself whether or not the big spiritual thingamajig is washing over your free will, personal responsibility for your thoughts and emotions, and ability to do personal spiritual cultivation all on your own. If you are experiencing the effects of this current energy blast and due to that are freaking out with the rest of the meta-immunity, stay calm and be confident that unlike the tenets of the outdated organized religions of the world, there's going to be some elusive outside entities, or force coming along very shortly that will straighten all this out for us any minute now, maybe even before you finish the sentence. Some of you may be saying to yourselves, but I don't sense this big spiritual thingamajig. What's wrong with me? And that's perfectly fine. All that really means is that you simply aren't spiritually mature enough to sense it on your own. The first step in rectifying this is to abandon the idea that you are an individual and adopt the philosophy that individuality is in fact overrated and quite inefficient in light of the much preferred collective consciousness hive mind of the meta-immunity. You, as an individual, simply do not have the capacity to experience, observe, and interpret what happens in your life all by yourself. You certainly don't have the ability to change any of it as an individual and therefore must move toward the direction of putting your faith in the combined knowledge and guidance of the meta-immunity. You can begin to do that by following gurus in the meta-immunity who are much more spiritually evolved than you and have this whole thing figured out. The best way to find those gurus is by determining who among them have the largest social media following, flashiest graphics on their live streams and videos, and tend to charge the most for their private readings and consultations. After all, if it doesn't come with a price tag, is it really worth anything to begin with? Once you find your guru or gurus of choice, the most critical step is to go into and remain in a state of constant suspended disbelief. This makes it much easier for you to hear and understand the process of world building from your particular guru or gurus. While this process may be difficult for some of you still attached to the old ways of critical thinking, once achieved, a sigh of relief will resonate from your spirit as you accept that fate and circumstance are no longer in your clumsy hands. Trust that your guru or gurus are not building their own religion or church as they travel the globe to sacred groves, ley lines, and temples with your donations to lock or unlock or alter timelines or realms of the Uberverse in drug-induced rituals they receive from the Uberverse after eating a hearty bowl of Lucky Charms. If you have yet to sense the big spiritual thingamajig after finding your guru or gurus of choice and imbibing the storyline they are offering you to partake in, it simply means that you are still too much in your ego and are hanging on to the notion that individuality is a rare, precious, and necessary vehicle for you to experience this life in reality. Give it up already. Get spiritual and just let go of that. Once you do and allow the meta-immunity to guide and determine your destiny, things will still not make sense, but at least it won't be your fault. A few other things you can do to get more spiritual is approach it like the game room in the basement of a comic book convention where a multitude are sitting at tables playing D&D, Magic the Gathering, and occasionally hero clicks. Purchase as many high-ranking accessories to metaphysics as you can, and Google tips, tricks, strategies, and cheat codes for whatever world you've accepted from your guru or gurus. Make sure that after you do, you allow others in the meta-immunity to believe that when you speak or act on a particular metaphysical level, it's from a place of personal authenticity and experience, rather than something you purchased online or an article you scrolled halfway through while you were waiting in line at the DMV. Also, and this is key, stop listening to the still small voice inside of yourself and get in the habit of putting critical decision making onto physical objects outside of yourself. This makes it much easier to sardonically shrug when things in your life or the lives of people your decisions affect go awry. Personal responsibility and egoic single-mindedness have no place in this new age of the collective consciousness in the meta-immunity. The sooner you come to this idea, the better it will be for you and the rest of us. It's really simple. Lower your mental shields and surrender your ego so that your spiritual and intellectual distinctiveness can be added to our meta immunity. Your spiritual and intellectual capacities will service us. Resistance is futile. Once you've taken the appropriate steps, many of which have been articulated here, then you too will begin to sense the big spiritual thingamajig, which is happening regardless of time or space. It is a wondrous stream devoid of accountability, personal responsibility, and required individual discipline, just waiting for you to wade into. It has no beginning, and as far as Barbara Jenkins can tell, has no end. Make sure you carry all your baggage into it so you get to the bottom of this thing as fast as possible. Join the rest of us in the meta-immunity as we shed ourselves of the shackles organized religion has placed on us with their dogma and morals by making up completely new ones. May all your spirit guides, gurus, and allegorical but literal gods and goddesses assist you in traversing this big spiritual thingamajig.